Hello and welcome to Flipflops and Notebooks. I am Elliot and it's confession time. I feel too old for some of the young adult fantasy novels out there. Yeah, it's unfortunate. This has come to light while I was reading The Iron Sword by Julie Kagawa. And I just realized it ain't doing it for me no more. Too bad. Well, let's find out what happened. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea and let's get started. Alright, so thank you to the publisher, Inkyard Press and NetGalley. As I said before, young adult fantasy novels are a special sort of genre. I used to love it. I still find it very exciting, but I think some of those books have kind of lost its appeal to someone of my age group. Let's just keep it at that. Because I've noticed in the first 3% of this story, The Iron Sword, there was a lot of repetition. And there was also a lot of tell and not show, and a lot of descriptions, and I just lost interest in it. And it wasn't really like, oh, don't say that this is I'm making some sort of generalization about young adult fantasy novels. No, I'm not. It's just like the certain type of descriptions and the certain type of repetition that seems to be very typical of young adult fantasy novels. That's what I was talking about. And let me just read you a quote. It's a bit of a long quote, so stick with me. Let's see how much I'm actually willing to read. Right, so I glanced at Megan and saw the veiled fear and anger in her eyes. Worry for Kieran, anger that something was attempting to take him from us yet again, determination that we would find him no matter what. The Iron Queen, though she had grown wise in her rule over the Iron Kingdom, still struggled with burying and shutting off her emotions, particularly when it came to family. I had more practice, a lifetime of freezing out memories and emotions. And yet, I was finding it difficult to remain impassive. My son was missing. I needed to find him. But after that, I wanted nothing more than to track down whatever threatened him and destroy it completely. And it goes on and on and on. And yeah, it's supposed to give an insight into the character's state of mind, state of emotional well-being or lack thereof. But again, this was at the 3% mark, and this was already a repetition of what has been said before. And the 3% we've already read, so it's kind of like, okay, I think we got it. Can we move on? Can we get going with the actual story? Right, the characters. We have a brooding protagonist, Ash. I've read a couple of other reviews and they said that they were really excited about having Ash as the protagonist. I couldn't really get into the character. It was too much information again, as you probably heard from the quote, into his emotional state. And it was very kind of like, I have feelings and I would tell them over and over again. Again, not really my cup of tea. And then we have someone missing. The foil is missing, the character foil in the story, Puck. If anybody has read The Iron Raven, they would remember that Puck was the main character in that one. He was snarky, he was sarcastic, he had comments, he kept the story going, he kept it kind of like a little bit light with his funny way of looking at things, which eased up the tension and which kind of made it a little bit easier to read. Yeah, he was able to offset the heavily Latin emotional revelations and descriptions. And we don't have that here. So we have Ash and everybody else just kind of like feelings. I must share my feelings. But there was like the snarkiness missing. There was the balance missing. So it just felt like everybody was tortured and we never got a break from that. The writing was still good. It was still easy flowing. It was still clean and crisp. But it just cannot make up for any of the shortcomings in the narrative itself. Unfortunately, no. The plot is questionable. The characters are thrown right back into the between. So it's like a continuation of the first one, but yet it feels more like a recycling of the plot of the first installment. And there's that traveling troupe kind of type vibe going on. Whole bunch of characters, a variety of characters with different skill sets, with different strengths and weaknesses, all coming together, and let's journey over hill and valley to reach some obscure destination the reader is really confused about. So it just kind of goes from A to point B to point C, and like little crumbs of information is being given, and they're all supposed to just keep traveling and keep getting information. And okay, we've had that in the first installment. Recycling pots, never that. They're never that intriguing because we just read it, right? We want to have a continuation of the story instead of just the same thing, chewed up in a different way. The verdict. I guess I would suggest it to diehard fans of Kagawa's and the Iron Fae and Evenfall series. It's not a bad book. It's not a bad series. I was just hoping for more depth, more substance, so to speak. And unfortunately, I lost interest and a little bit of patience with just like the broodiness and the repetition. So, if there is a third installment coming out, a third part of this series, I probably won't be reading it because it's just not my cup of tea anymore. But yeah, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going because two people can read the same book but never the same story. So thanks for watching.